Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode of the Reverse Sweep. I am joined alongside Aches.
What up, Doug? How you doing, man?
Parasite.
Dude, hold on.
What's up, Doug?
You all the names, bro.
And
What is this
Enable.
new shit where you're just stopping
Yo,
one by one, lagging
love
out?
you, Doug. I
No,
love
my
you.
man Ian. Oh, I appreciate you, Ian. You're the only one who gets it here, I guess.
They just don't.
Jesus.
Pat don't understand. He don't understand.
Anyways, this episode is going to be a little bit different, guys. Instead of us doing our weekly normal podcast where we kind of just talk about everything going on in the CDL, we decided because the major is coming up this weekend, it's going to be a huge tournament, the biggest tournament so far of the year for all these players and teams. We all decided to hop on and basically give our tier list of all the 12 teams in the CDL. Before we get into that, though, I want Ian to start with the YouTube questions because a lot of you guys have been giving us some good questions, and we appreciate that. We also appreciate all the support on these videos. If you guys haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. But Ian, take it from here.
Whew. Doug's got experience. That was clean. Okay. The first YouTube question. This was a good one. I actually read this one. It is from Matt. And he asked us, do any middle of the pack, top 4 to top 10 teams have enough firepower to compete with teams like FaZe or Texas consistently? Anyone? Or do you want me to?
So the wording of that question, it's like anyone under like the top 4, or like are we just counting anyone except for FaZe or Texas? How do you guys want to like do this question?
I mean, yeah, the way I'm looking at it is like, I mean, okay, the 10 seeded team. No, we're not talking about them.
Yeah.
But like it's like the mid pack would be what, like a London. I mean, I don't even know. LAG, Seattle, Toronto. Like right now, those would be kind of the mid pack teams. LAT as well.
Wait, you got mid pack Seattle. We're gonna have a huge.
Well, no.
disagreement with this tier
But I'm just saying, like, because he said stack up against FaZe and OpTic, so I'm assuming he's saying that they have the most talented teams. So like not middle of the pack, but you know what I mean? Like
Let's go 3 through 10 then, right? Because if he used them as a baseline, we'll do every team that's not FaZe or OpTic. Do we see anybody in the league currently in that 3 through 10 range that has the ability to compete against those two?
Thieves, we already talked about them potentially winning the major. And also I wanted to kind of clarify that because a lot of people are like, well, you didn't pick FaZe. It gets boring picking FaZe every single time. We know that those guys are obviously a top tier. Like there's no surprise. But obviously I think Thieves has a really good top down roster. Octane's an amazing player. Kenny is disgusting. Draza has been playing really well ever since he started in the CDL, and then you have Envoy. Like that on paper is a good enough roster to be as good as FaZe, in my opinion. That's like one of the teams that stands out, obviously.
I think.
Go ahead, Ian.
I mean, dude, I think when you look at all those teams, like LAT, Toronto, Seattle, London, am I missing one? Those are like the realistically.
Yeah, I think it's just those.
Just those. Like all of those teams, similar to what Chris said, and LAT, yeah, they have enough firepower to compete. I mean, we all know that talent alone isn't what like makes you a champion. Like especially in this game. Like FaZe and OpTic might have the 2 most talented teams, but I think all of those other teams, they're close. You know, like they can compete with those players individually. And I just think at the end of the day, it comes down to your teamwork and your team chemistry and, you know, playing the game fundamentally correctly. So I do think all of those teams have enough firepower. I'm sure we'd all agree on that.
Yeah, I think there's plenty.
Sorry,
and something we want to look at too is like the performance from online to LAN. Like I think London is going to be like that. To me, they're almost the team to watch going into this major because of how well they were playing online versus how, you know, the poor of a showing they had at the kickoff. And I think if they come to this event and play the way that they've been playing online, they're a crazy dark horse. And I think they have the talent alone just off what we see. I think Gizmo's one of the probably the best rookies in the league right now. So yeah, if they can translate that to LAN, I think there's multiple teams that kind of can compete for that. It comes down to just consistency, and that's always been the struggle for the teams that are in that pack, you know, below, outside the top 2, if they can stay consistent in all game modes, because I think that's especially where FaZe dominates, is they're just so consistent as a squad.
I definitely think that I think Seattle's still one of the best teams in the game, and they showed it at the LAN, and I really like to base my opinions based off of LAN, not based off of online as much. So I agree with you, Pat. I think London looks amazingly better than they did at the kickoff online, but I really need to see those guys do that on LAN, and I will be some of their biggest supporters. But until I see it on LAN, I can't rate them as high as these other guys, even though they've been doing good on these online matches, because I've always been a big believer that whatever you do online does not matter. What you do on LAN is what counts. And for me, Seattle showed me the most on LAN still, even though they got second and Toronto beat them. I still like Seattle a lot. And I definitely think that there's a lot of teams that could compete. And I think FaZe is still the favorite, but I think there's so many different teams that could compete for that first ranked spot this year.
It's very competitive. Very, very competitive. But moving on to the second question. This is from my guy, Tyler Nelson. And he asked us, wow. My question is, if each of you could pick one player you wish you could have teamed with but never had the chance to, who would it be and why? I mean, this is easy for me. Simp, or aBeZy, one of those two.
Yo,
I mean, honestly, they're the tiny terrorists. So is that like a 2-for-1 package deal? I just get both of them for
I was sitting here like, who have I not teamed with? And I'm like, wait a second, yeah, I haven't played with any of those guys. I was even thinking about like the New Day. So yeah, I think that's gonna be a clear cut Simp and aBeZy.
Okay. Let's mix it up, because rather than everyone picking Simp and aBeZy, let's talk about, like, we've all played, like, at least me, Pat, and Doug have played with the majority of early years before their era. Like, if you were like, let's think of a cutoff. Like,
kind of in
I think
more of our era.
I think pre Black Ops 4, if you could pick anyone, who would it be?
Crim, 100%. Crimsix.
That's
He's
a
high
good
on
one.
my
Damn, yeah,
list.
you never teamed with Crim, even in like an older COD?
No, because Pat always had him, and then he went to OpTic, or else I would have had Crim on my team. But then
Pat was riding his coattails.
Dude, I would do a lot.
When Crim came to COD, he wasn't even getting picked in 8s, bro. He was looked at so bad.
I remember that. I
picked him
Wait,
up.
does it count?
We just ran the table.
Before I answer the question, have I technically teamed with like Crim and Scump since I was subbed on OpTic?
I wouldn't say that. No, not the sub in. Yeah.
Well, you won a major with them though, so I feel like that counts more.
Hey, we went back to back, 100%.
Oh, then it definitely counts, Pat. They won back-to-back majors, 100%.
Yeah, but that wasn't like his real team, right? Like they were just filling in for 2 events.
But yeah.
Like,
who is actually someone else got to go. I got to think about this because I don't want to pick one of them then.
Yeah, Chris, who do you want? Because I was gonna say I'm sorry to cut you off. I was gonna say Damon, but thankfully for you, Chris, we got Damon for an event and we won. So I was happy we played.
Yeah,
Damon,
I was gonna say Crim, but like if we're all gonna pick Crimsix, I didn't get the team with Crimsix. I'd probably say someone like Kenny. Kenny was disgusting.
That's a good one.
I played with him. I played with him in Ghost in like Search and Destroy tournaments before he like made his like kind of debut in Variant and like the competitive scene, and he was disgusting. And now he's like arguably one of the most talented players in the league. Like, so it would have been cool to kind of have that like synergy that I had with him playing a whole bunch of Ghost S&D tournaments back in the day, and like, you know, actually getting a team with him in actual, you know, team environment, because he's disgusting.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Kenny is a beast, I can tell you that. Pat, who's your answer?
So for me, I mean, like when we talk about pre Black Ops 4, I pretty much teamed with like everybody that I would have wanted to team with.
Well, it was for the streets.
So, I mean, not really. It's not me that was topping the teams, you know. But I'd probably go back to like COD 4 and say like Assassin. I think like you know, COD 4 was like the first game that I started playing really competitively. And just like watching what he was doing, I just thought he was always gross. Obviously, that was kind of like, you know, he didn't play much after that, going a couple of years. But yeah, I would say back to like the roots of COD 4 and go with him.
Or even in like Black Ops 1, dude, he was disgusting at Black Ops 1, like back with like FaZe and all those guys.
I wonder what he does
beast
nowadays.
I don't know. I think he's a father. I think he just recently had a child, not too long ago. I think I saw on Twitter.
Sheesh. I remember that he was like one of the first people I even knew from the COD scene, because I saw his like crazy 1v4 on, was it Firing Range or something?
Yep. He was kind of like, even, well, not so much before that, but I would say that he was kind of like the Walshy to our game back in COD 4. Like that's kind of how you would, you know, people would think about him in comparison. Yeah. Mainly in that era, so back that far back, but he's probably the best one to kind of compare to what Walsh was for Halo back in the day.
Okay. I never even thought about it like that. For me, not going to choose anyone on the OpTic Dynasty. It would probably be John, because I never teamed with him. Like LG or MV John. Y'all know John. I think it would have been fun, especially in games like Black Ops 3. If I played Black Ops 2, was John nasty at Black Ops 2? He was, right?
He was good. Yeah,
He's pretty good.
I don't know. I just always felt like when I went up against him, he was like the most annoying player to play against, like the most annoying sub. He played it so different than so many other subs at the time. So he's my pick.
Have you guys all teamed together? Because I've teamed with all of you. Have you guys teamed with all of us as well?
I haven't teamed with Doug.
Yeah, I've teamed with everyone in here.
Okay, so just Doug.
Right? I don't think we teamed. Did we, Doug?
No, we never teamed before.
My memory is trash. I'll be honest.
No, if we did, we would have got a chip though, for sure.
Yeah. Hey,
imagine that sub duo.
Imagine
that sub duo running at me. I'd be licking my lips. If
I was a young Flexerson. I would have been smoking whoever your flex is. Next question, though. This is also from a Tyler. It is from Tyler Gilman, and he wants to know, what were each of y'all's best event individually, and what was your biggest / favorite win you had at an event? I guess since I went last, I can go first this time. For me, best event individually, honestly, is probably Season 3 playoffs in Advanced Warfare. Because...
Don't remind me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Chris. Just because we won the event, is like at the time the greatest comeback ever in Call of Duty history, I'm pretty sure. But I know my stats were crazy. I had like a 1.3 in every single game mode, including SND, Pat. And we came back from it was 03, right? It was 03 to Chris's team in losers finals, won 4 straight, and then we played OpTic. We had to win 2 best of 7s, and we bodied them 4-1, 4-1. So that's probably my best individual event. I mean, I've had a lot of great ones, y'all know, but like we won that one as well. So, and my biggest / favorite win, probably, dude, this is tough because I don't have a champs win. Like, Pat, I already know you and Chris are going to say that. Yeah. But like the first win that I had with OpTic was my first Call of Duty win, then winning with FaZe. I'd probably say TK though. When I won, I don't even know what event it was. Yeah, the playoffs. Right? Yeah, just because at that time, Pat scumbagged me. I thought we were supposed to be team with Dashy on EG. He's like, yo, you're dropped. And I thought I was going to like get pushed out of the league. I almost did, actually. I was on Lightning Pandas. I think I took your spot. Didn't I, Doug?
Yeah, so I went to go play with Dashy, and then you took my spot.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Then you got on to play.
Yeah, and I was like, damn, bro. But then Zinni ended up joining OpTic. I got an opportunity with TK. And so to be able to win that after, I was like, damn, I'm probably going to retire and never play again, let alone get another win. That was pretty special.
I think World War II was a lot of ups and downs for like everybody, bro. There was a lot that happened that year for a lot of different players on a lot of different rosters. Like we're talking about Zinni joining.
It really
OpTic.
Was.
Like there was just a lot of moves.
The
being
OpTic
made
guys, Formal.
Slasher got balled out, went to Rise, like from Envy, like that. Then Envy put that team together thinking they were godlike because they were like a perfect jetpack squad. And it just failed right away.
Trash.
So yeah, that year was wild in general, but yeah, those are some good picks.
What about you, Pat?
My best performance was probably that Ghost Champs. Just individually, I think I was just
you were fine.
I just couldn't be killed.
You were fine. You lucky I wasn't there.
Pat. You're lucky I didn't play you.
Yeah, all right. But my favorite event win though would probably be that FaZe Columbus upset against OpTic in those 2 best of 5s. I mean, as Doug knows because he was on the team, there was just so much that happened that event, and like the way we won was crazy. The amount of Game 5 round 11s we won was insane. So that was just a huge win for me, and the cut and everything. So that was just a wild event. So that's probably my favorite for sure.
Bro, wait, before Doug, you go next or Chris? And I hate gassing you up, but bro, I still remember that 1v1 versus Formal, right, on Biolab. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Boy had the flu game. Lucky though. That ass, you lucky I wasn't there. I would have pushed you down.
Chris, go.
Okay, so see, on the contrary to you guys, all of your guys' like best events in terms of stats, so you guys won. My best event in terms of stats, because like at least for me, I've always been like a player that I put up pretty decent stats at events, but never anything like crazy. Like like here and there. But the one event that I did have some nutty stats, I ended up placing 9th through 12th, and it was an event
What?
in AW. Yeah, listen. It was the second event of AW after we had just got third at the first event in Columbus with Fears, Legal, and Ricky.
Ricky, right?
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that team. Yeah, I remember that.
UMG
Yeah,
Orlando?
UMG Orlando and Legal. His rest in peace. His father had passed, and he still ended up making it to the event and playing through that. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, like, we obviously weren't gonna play to our potential because we had players going through shit.
Mhm.
But at that event, I actually was like playing the best COD of my life. I think I averaged in like, I think I played 5 matches. 4 of them were pool play, or it was either 4 of them were pool play and we got knocked out, or like we played 2 bracket matches. But in those matches, I actually still remember it. I had like a 1.8 or 1.7, like somewhere around there. In S&D, I averaged like 12 kills a search and destroy. And we went like last map a lot of the time. And on top of that, I had like crazy wild hard point stats and uplink stats. And we had like, I still remember, because like I was always big on like stats back then, asking like the stat guys. And I was like, oh, did you see guys my stats? And he like said that I'd played, I was like the best player statistically at the event in terms of like overall average, even though I didn't make it that far.
I would have been heated if I was you. If you were averaging 12 kills in S&D.
Basically, I actually had an average of 12 kills in S&D in that entire tournament, and we went like map 5 multiple times. But that was my best statistical event, even though we placed like shit, which was always demoralizing. But favorite event win, I want to say it was a COD Champs, because obviously it was the first one, but honestly one of my favorite event wins was the one we won together, Doug, in UMG Nashville. And the reason why was because like that run we had was crazy in the losers bracket. UMG Nashville, do you remember how long that run was?
I remember every
You guys
map
played
of the-
Denial
every
in the
map of the
finals,
tournament.
right?
Yeah, we went last map twice.
Yeah, dude, that was
yeah,
Sovereign S&D.
Yeah, and then we had like a overtime, even though it was a 3-0 series, like
Quadruple overtime against Looney and Attach.
Yeah,
on Warhawk.
on Warhawk Blitz, like we literally just kept going overtime blitz, overtime blitz, overtime blitz. It was probably the longest tournament like I've ever been in, like in terms of like how much resilience and endurance we had to go through to make it out and win. So that was probably one of my favorite wins.
I think my best performance was on Lightning Pandas, actually, Ian, with Royalty, Exotic, and Goon. We got bounced in the open bracket like early. We played Team Heretics early in a best of 3. We won
World War
map
II?
1. Yeah.
World War II, okay.
We won map 1, and then they just like spit on us bad in the CTF. Like the CTF and the S&D, we got absolutely destroyed. Like, dude, we won 1 round in search, and they were just, that kid Metals was just popping 3s. Like, I would just die, and I'd spectate my team, and I just watch them all get gunned like flies, like one by one, like within 5 seconds, like 3 rounds in a row. Like they were screaming, they're like "Andale!" screaming, and I could see my team.
Did Doug just say "Andale"?
Yeah, they were like "Andale, vamos amigo!" Like going crazy. Like those guys were just on another level, and we got bounced. We were top 40, and we had to make a run. We ended up making a crazy run, and we ended up getting 7th, 8th, and we beat FaZe. Yeah, we beat FaZe. We knocked them out, and we beat you guys, Ian. We beat Chris. We beat you guys as well. Thank you to the monitors turning off and the internet going out.
Was that Birmingham?
Yeah, I remember that.
Let's not talk about
Yo, we got like top 20, bro. Those
modders, that latency.
I didn't even go to that event. I remember playing you though.
5MS?
Yeah, so
5MS.
I think I'm a 5MS Reaper because I think my stats were like, I had at least a 1.2 overall, and that's why I got that complexity spot after. So that was probably like my best performance, even though like usually like when I've won, I've always been around like a 0.95. Like I've never been a 1.2 player, but I think like my favorite win, those are really good wins, guys, but probably the first one at Nationals, just because like that was like my first year competing full time, and I wouldn't even have been a pro if it wasn't for Vengeance, because he believed in me and he stuck with me the entire year. And no matter what happened, the highs and the lows, and he always had my back. And like when it all came together at the final like event, which was the most important one, we had the hardest bracket. We had to beat every single top team, Assassin and John and those boys, Pat and your team, NB, OpTic, did a reverse sweep, right? Like all these best teams, we beat them all without losing. And that was like the first time in my life where like I had this epiphany where like all that hard work I put in and I never doubted myself for a second, it all came to fruition in front of my eyes. So that really like changed my mind, and it changed the way I thought about things. So that's definitely been my favorite, but a close second is probably, I don't even know. Like I rate both. I mean, I only got 4, but that's my number one for sure.
Wait,
that
so
was when
Ian-
you were still skinny, right, with glasses?
Yeah,
I remember seeing that video. Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
Ian, back in Halo, because I remember you guys had the combine where Halo Reach was like being played for the amateur bracket while the pros played Halo 3 finals.
Yeah.
How far into Halo Reach's like life cycle was that? Like, how long had Reach been out from that tournament?
Fuck, dude, my memory's so bad. I want to say at least a year.
Wait,
Or-
really? You were still playing Halo 3 a year into Reach?
Oh. I misunderstood.
Okay.
I think Reach was already out. I think we were playing Reach. Or no, it might have been like there was the last Halo 3 event. Like nationals coming up.
So that's how it was for us in BO1, where Providence had it had the Black Ops 1 national event, but Modern Warfare 3 had been out for like a month and a half, and like that's the event Doug was talking about. That was his favorite.
Wait, so MW3
came out a
was
month
the
and a
new
half
one.
before we went to we went to
damn.
Providence. Yeah,
Dude,
it
that's
was
so
like the
weird.
first time that ever happened. Yeah, I know, it was so weird for us. That was
I
like the
don't
only
know.
time that's ever occurred.
I mean, hey, I think those were some good answers from us. Pat's was kind of trash, but what are you gonna do? Last question. This is from you guys, and I will say it again. If you want us to answer your questions, comment below. We're gonna do our best to answer as many as we can in each episode. But this one is from David Brotkowski. That's the last name if I've ever seen one. If every team split up, you owned a franchise and could make a team of 4 with a blank check, who would be your 4 go-to players to sign to make the next dynasty? And then he said, in parentheses, 1 FaZe player only. Blank check.
Are we going one by one, or are we like collectively gonna? Why don't we collectively each pick a role and then pick a player from that role?
Well, I clearly have the flex, right? I got it.
All right.
Because I don't know.
All right, I'll take the sub role. I'll take the sub role from it.
Well, there's 2
And
sub-roles.
only 1 FaZe player.
Yeah.
I would take in Simp over aBeZy for sure.
Nah, I'm taking aBeZy.
Nah, we're taking Simp, bro. We gotta get Simp.
But damn, it really depends on who else we're molding them by. But 1 FaZe player is kind
Wait,
of.
hold on. Let me ask this, Doug. Do you think Simp's role is easier to play than aBeZy's?
I'm not gonna lie, I already got my team.
I think Simp's the best
Damn,
player.
Chris.
I think Simp's just the best player, Pat. Like overall, he's the best player in my mind.
Yeah, that may be true, but aBeZy's the clear cut best in his role. Like, you could find another Simp even if they're a little bit worse. It's really hard.
Are we
to
playing
find a
on this
perfect
team?
aBeZy. No.
No, okay.
You want to pick aBeZy, I want to pick
If
Simp.
Pat was playing, there ain't no roster. Don't
Yeah,
matter.
we're
Like,
gonna be
check or what?
dynasty for sure.
So wait, let's start with the sub. So I want Simp. Pat wants aBeZy. Chris and Ian. Who are we getting? Are we getting Simp or are we getting aBeZy?
I'm taking aBeZy.
Ian.
Oh, bro, this is tough.
Listen, the
if
way
you,
I
would
see
think
it,
we're doing a coin flip to pick.
No,
out
no,
which player we're gonna get.
look. Let's all do our individual one and see what the teams end up coming up.
All right.
okay. That's fair.
Because Chris already got his, and like, I can't trust y'all with the flex player and the AR, so I got to see how I want to construct this. All right, we all have our next dynasty teams. Doug, let me hear your roster.
All right. So for my sub duo, let me get Simp and Shotzzy. All right.
Okay.
And then for my flex, let me get Awakening. And then for my main, let me get Octane.
Dynasty?
That's
What?
it?
All right. Let me hear your
I didn't know
teams.
they're winning a chip in Vanguard.
Let me hear
They
your
might not
teams
even
then.
sniff top 3, baby. Octane on the main.
Bro, I'm telling you, I got the best team already, bro. Like,
Alright,
say,
go
say
ahead.
my, you
Go
want me to
ahead.
go? You want me to go?
Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm taking aBeZy. I'm taking Envoy, Kenny,
Mhm.
and either Slasher or Insight.
Dude, you know what's funny?
My roster's real similar.
My roster was very similar, but I had an epiphany. That roster's pretty
you
good.
want
though.
to hear my thought process behind this? Well, first, I didn't want to take like a team of 3. Like, I couldn't just say Octane, Kenny, Envoy. Like, they're already on the same team. So I took only 2 people from the same team. One person from FaZe, obviously, and then like another. But the reason I chose aBeZy over Simp, for example, instead of like how Doug did it, was I think aBeZy's role is harder to do. Simp
Yeah,
is really
agreed.
good. He's disgusting. I'm not saying he's not the best at what he does, but like there's a lot of like, you know, meticulous subs, smarter players, you know, a little bit slower, like in terms of the pressure they pick, and Envoy is very similar to that. So that's why I was like, I'm taking aBeZy because what he does is different. Like it's hard to just run around and win all those like off the hip gunfights like consistently, and aBeZy's probably one of the best to do it. So,
nah, he is, dude. I don't think we've ever seen a sub player like aBeZy be as consistent as him for as long as he's
makes
done
it feel like you get joked like on land, like you just get bullshitted.
Hey, I used to put him and Simp down though. 1v2 and infos of Black Ops 4. My teammates, though. I don't know.
See, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from them, but like, I want to see what they're like on the when the meta changes, right? Like, we went through boots to jetpacks to now the sliding COD. I'd really love to see. I doubt it'll happen, but see a COD change and then see how that FaZe roster individually still works. I think they'll still obviously be good, but kind of the roles that we're talking about, like where aBeZy dominates. I think he really dominates in the games now.
Yeah. Well, damn. But you just kept. I have such a good question now.
Well, hold on, let's finish the teams and then we'll talk about it.
Right. Mine was real similar to your, Chris. I got aBeZy, Envoy, Cammy, and Slasher. That's what I went with.
That's good.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
And this assumes Slasher is going to actually perform to his level because he's been some butt the last few years.
Some cheeks, bro. Damn. Okay, mine. You know what? I'm gonna side because I've been bouncing back and forth.
So you gotta make up your mind.
No, I've been bouncing back. I've been bouncing back and forth.
We gotta sign a team.
Look, hey, I'm cutting the check for these cats. All right, super max for all of them. My subs similar to Doug, Simp, Shotzzy. That was tough because I think aBeZy and Envoy are also good picks, which that is the two I went with originally. But I kind of want to see how Simp and Shotzzy would do together. And I also think like Shotzzy is very similar to aBeZy. I think him and aBeZy are the only two like in that tier in what they do. And I like Shotzzy. So those are my two subs. I got Kenny on the flex / second AR, whatever the case may be. And then last but not least, actually, I got Kenny on the main AR. And then he's a main AR now. I don't know. I'm his father, you know, he does.
But he's a main AR now? Yeah.
Well, he runs an AR, I think, on like every map, except probably Bocage or whatever. But like he could be a main AR. Like he was a main AR last year on their team.
Who's your flex then?
So he's my main AR. And then for the flex, I have Cammy. That's my team. I
think Cammy solidified himself as a dominant flex the last few years.
Well, it's good to know we all have
Cellium. I would say Cellium, obviously, because he's the best flex.
Yeah.
But
do you take Cell over aBeZy? I just feel like the sub role has such a higher impact on the map than a flex player.
Weird that you say that though, because a lot of people. It's weird that you say that though, because a lot of people will say your flex is your best player on your team.
I agree.
But it's not the hardest role to play. Big difference.
I agree. I would agree.
Say the gap between flex players is minimal. I think Cellium's doing a phenomenal job this year and might be like kind of stretching that gap. But traditionally, most years, the strength between the flex players isn't that much.
It's because I mean, if you're a flex player, like the best flex players, they're just the best at being able to adapt.
Yeah, you're the do-it-all player. You get to do whatever you want on the map. Like,
so I don't know. I think all four of those teams are good. Mine clearly would smash y'all though in every tournament.
Yeah, you might be getting released to the GM and the
hey, good try. I'm gonna have a gold statue outside in Philadelphia.
All right,
that's where our team's gonna be.
Now that we've solidified that I'd be the best GM out of us four, let's hop on over to the team tier list, which is the main point of this video. We also do have James from production helping us out. So if you get confused, don't worry. He's just helping us out with the tier list, getting the teams in order. But yeah, let's go in order as the teams that we got them, left to right. Obviously, Thieves is up first. Where do we want them?
Well, so, okay, look, because I've had this argument a couple times now. I've done this ain't my first rodeo with the tier list. Are we looking at this as the tier list going into Major 1, like S tier would be the favorites and the teams that we think like they all have a fair chance of winning? Or are we looking at it like if one team is S tier and one team is A tier, like the S tier team would beat the A tier team like 75% of the time. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
I'd say the latter, but I say what we should base it off of is everything we've seen in Vanguard to this day. So obviously, this is the end of February. Everything we've seen, including the Kickoff Classic, what we know from scrims, the matches we saw, kind of go off, the strength that we believe they're at right now.
I think we do S tier as in like potential to win, like in terms of what we've seen in Vanguard so far. Potential to win multiple championships this year just off Vanguard.
Okay.
Just off what we currently know.
That kind of lines up too. So
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna start it off. I think we could kind of incorporate both of those.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think LAT is in the S tier, but I think as a whole we should put in the A tier. The reason why I have in the S tier is because not only do I see what you guys see, I watch them scrim at the compound and play teams like FaZe, like OpTic, the other top dogs. And I know that it's very close. It's a lot closer than I think a lot of fans think.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure you guys probably all have them at the A tier.
So
they're there. They're there. They could definitely win.
I think something we should kind of preface here is even if we put a team in the A tier, that does not mean they can't win events, right? Like I think the A tier is on the cusp of winning events just as much as the S tier, but it would be more of a considered an upset win, right? And I guess it wouldn't really be a big upset, right? If the Thieves beat FaZe in a final, that's not a huge upset, but I would say
still an upset, yeah.
Yeah,
still
right. So I think I agree with you. I think Thieves is kind of a lock in the A tier. I couldn't see them falling out of this tier as the year goes on. I think they'll always be in this, 1 through 5, mix it up. So yeah, I got him in A as well. What about you guys, Doug and Chris?
I agree. I put him in the A tier. I think that's a solid place of placing.
I think A is fair.
What'll be interesting too is where we place them, left to right when we put more teams in that tier as well. I think that's something to keep in mind.
They're at the front of the line.
Before we move on to Florida right now, I need to know: are we going to put any teams in this D tier?
Hell yeah! More than one.
It's there for a reason.
Some trash cans in the league.
So I'll start with Florida right now. I think that they had promised to be in the B tier, but I think I would put them in the C tier just based off of what I've seen from them on LAN and online. I think that they have a really bad pacing issue right now. I think they have some really talented players and play like Reese Vivid, one of the most aggro players, puts up a lot of damage, gets a lot of kills, gets a lot of engagements. Caesar Skyz super consistent at getting a good KD every single COD, playing really good in S&D. Dab Patty super consistent getting kills. Awakening, one of the best slayers. But their pacing is weird. Like they need a Colt Havoc type player on that team to make everything make sense, to play a little bit more together. Right now, I'd have to put them in the C tier just based off what I've seen.
I think I agree with you, and I think the reason is they're such a hit or miss team. Like there could be days where this team could look like a D tier team, but there's days where they could look like an A tier team. I feel like they just fluctuate so much, and they don't have a real identity yet on where they are as a team on a consistent level. And so when we compare the teams that we're going to kind of push around in these tiers, I think you're right, Doug. I think C currently is where they stand, but I think they have a lot of room to grow. Right, I think this team could really improve and jump up. But yeah, right now from what we've seen, I just don't see them with the B tier teams yet.
Yeah, that's been like the story of like Florida in general,
franchise, right?
Like, the entire franchise. Yeah. It's like, wow, they're amazing. Oh, never mind. Oh, they're really good. No, never mind. So,
they have a super high ceiling and a super low floor.
Yeah,
I think C is perfect for them. I think any team that's like in the C tier legitimately has to make a team change if they want to be like a contender.
At least one move, right?
Yeah, at least one. Like I don't think that 4 will ever be a contender in Vanguard just because they're so hit or miss.
Yep.
Yeah, barring like a crazy meta Swift. Like if we just go off the meta right now, yeah, I totally agree with you.
If it was an all AR meta, I'd put them in the A tier. Honestly.
Well, they have like 3 mains.
Yeah, I don't like the makeup of that team. I really don't. I don't know why they decided to do what they did, but
I guess when you got Reese Vivid putting down as much aggression on the map as he does, you need 3 mains.
That ass. You can't keep up with him. Boston Breach. This one?
See, this one's tricky, but my opinion is I personally have them the same way I have Florida, and I don't know if you guys feel the same. I think they equally have a high ceiling, but also a low floor. They're filled with rookies, aside from Methods and TJ, obviously. But even Methods and TJ, going off the past years and even what we've seen so far, like they're hit or miss kind of right now. They're not playing as consistent as they could be. I think they could upset anyone on any given day, but I think they could also lose to anyone. They lost to New York.
2 SNDs too.
Yeah, the game mode they're supposed to be the best in. So for me, they're super hit or miss. I kind of have them 1-for-1 with how I see Florida at the moment. But Chris,
I still think they're better than Florida though. Like, and honestly, C is like with the amount of teams. I think I don't really see too many teams getting put in C at this point, besides Florida and maybe arguably Boston. I think they could. I think they're B.
I'm with Chris. I think they're in the B tier as well.
I think they're in the B tier. I think
give me your argument.
The reason is, from what I've seen from them, like besides the fact that they lost to New York, they didn't look bad versus all the other teams they played, and they did have some decent wins. And in my opinion, like they have a lot of room to grow. Like for being such rookies, like it's different with like Florida because they have a little bit more like veterans in their team. So like you've kind of seen a lot of them before, and like for them to be playing that well and them to having a bad makeup of their roles and stuff like that, C is kind of warranted. But with B, like I feel like Boston was pretty, thrown together pretty last minute. They've been playing pretty good versus the majority of the teams. Besides the New York loss, they don't look terrible, and like their S&D looks good. And for them being like almost like a last minute team, like I think B is solid, man. Like they have a lot of room to grow, and I feel like they will get better. And I still think if they want to be a contender, they're probably gonna end up having to make changes if they continue to like, be on that like averages tier. But I don't think C is warranted. I think that they're like on like the lower end of a B.
Though, what have they done that's more impressive than what Florida's done? They're both, for reference, they're both 2 and 3. Breach has a 10-12 map count. Florida has an 8-10 map count. And Breach also lost to probably the worst team in the game right now in New York. So
well, Pat, what if
and more impressive?
What if Boston was in the B tier, but they were at the end of the B tier?
Yeah.
So like realistically, it'd be
we're gifting it to them though. Like, what have they
well,
done?
So my take
that you've seen, they got smoked at the kickoff to New York. Like,
I agree with you. I agree with you. But this is the thing that's tough. Is I think it's the opposite of what you said. I think a team like Florida has a very high ceiling, a very low floor. Very like they're hit or miss. Like they could 3-0 you, or like they could 3-0 a team like Toronto Ultra, or they could get 3-0'd by a team like Paris. Whereas Boston, I think they have a higher floor, but they have a way lower ceiling. Like when you look at
they lost to New York.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying in the perspective of like the series that they played, but just what you're going to get out of them in hardpoint S&D. So far, they're literally like 50 in those two. Their control is shit. But so they're really like they're going to win their hardpoints. They're going to lose their hardpoints. And the same with S&D. They don't necessarily have like a great mode. It was S&D. They were 4-0. And now I believe they ended the qualifiers 5-4. But I just feel like they can compete because
of their S&D.
They're solid, and they're solid enough in hardpoint, and their S&D, unless it just takes a fucking turn, they could win that more times than not.
Like they
Whereas
could be
Florida, I literally wouldn't be surprised if they went in, and I don't even know who they play in the losers bracket round 1, but if they went in and 3-0'd that team and then literally got 3-0'd the next series, like they're just day by day. I think Boston has a lot more consistency.
I think they're on the lower end of the B tier or just the higher end of the C tier. It's one or the other, but like they're just so close to falling or elevating in such a weird spot.
Here's my argument: the teams that we're going to put in B tier, even if we put Boston at the end of B tier, I think every team that we're going to throw in B tier is better than Breach.
Let's just put them ahead of Florida right now and see how the list.
That's where I got them. Yeah, that's where I was wanting to put them ahead of Florida, but like, you know what I mean? When we go through this list and we throw these teams in B, I feel like every team we're gonna throw in B is better than Boston, no matter what.
Yeah,
so
why
would we include them in B if every single team is better?
You're right.
All right, so going on to the next team, we have the Los Angeles Guerrillas. I'm going to put them in the B tier because I see a lot of promise for them to move up to the A tier. I think that their roster is coming together. I mean, Gunless and Asim are playing. Like Gunless looks like World War II Gunless. Asim is having the best season of his career. I feel like he played amazing last year, especially in the beginning and like mid part of the season, and he's doing it right now again this year. I feel like outside of those 0-7s he had in S&D, since then he's just been frying. Like I feel like Asim has just really been stepping his game up to another level. And overall, I think this team top to bottom, like they don't really have a weak link and they have all the components they need to win, but they haven't done enough consistently, beating enough of the best teams in the game to do that. But I do think their team is going to be better on LAN as well. But for right now, from what I've seen from LAG, I have to put them in the B tier.
I'd agree. I mean, besides their series versus Toronto, they lost to Boston and Minnesota 3-2, both those series. So obviously it's easy to say instead of being 2-3, they could have been 4-2 or 4-1. Yeah, 4-1. Yeah. Excuse me. And they kind of remind me of my old 100T team. Like not as good, but when we first formed, we were really good at hardpoint in Black Ops 4 and like kind of solid at control, and our S&D was and then we got our control to be pretty damn good as well. So it didn't even matter that our S&D wasn't that great. We could win series, even events alone just off of our respawn strength, I guess. And LAG is one of the best hardpoint teams in the game. So like there's 2 hardpoints in every series. I think they're finally starting to get their footing in S&D and control. And realistically, all they need to do is just fix one of those modes. If they can get one of those modes, even like just above average, I think they'll win a lot more series moving forward. So I agree with B-Doug.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think their hard point is why they're kind of on this cusp, right? They're so good at hard point, but to me, in comparison to your 100T team, this team is terrible at control. Like, almost one of the worst teams in the league at control. And then they're such a 50-50 team in search that they're just they some days they look like they're playing with a game plan, and other days they just don't look like they're on the same page at all. So yeah, for me, this is a team that can easily jump up to A if they work on all their modes. But for now, yeah, I think the only thing that's keeping them alive, so to speak, is how good they are at hardpoint, which is top 3, top 4 team in the game currently at that mode. So I think B is fitting.
Yeah, I have no problem with B for these guys. Yep, lock them in.
Pat, start off with Ultra here, man. What do you think?
Listen, so I think at the end of the year, when we do the very last Dexerto reverse sweep, we're gonna say Ultra is the only team in the S tier because they're gonna be the 2022 World Champions.
Boys, are they paying you under the table?
Nah, but listen, I just think Ultra's gonna put it together. I think they have immense teamwork. They have a very deep map pool, and I think they could take any team on any given day. For me, I mean, there's obviously been some series that we won't really get into the F8 stabilizer and everything else and whatnot. But I think they're a really good team. I think they could, like I said, take any team. I don't really see them losing to any team under the A tier, right? I think they could pretty much beat any team B through D. And then yeah, they're just kind of finding their identity of where they're at in the top 4. So for me, I have them in A. And for me, just looking at more consistency coming out of them, the struggle for them, I think, is, and we know Toronto net is crazy, but given their matches, like they're playing all Texas teams, they even played LA Thieves who are in LA. So I think, Doug, to your point earlier, this is a team that gets better on LAN without question. I think when they show up on LAN, as we saw at the Kickoff Classic, they're just another beast. And I think we'll see that. I think their consistency, though, is why we can't have them in the S tier just yet. But for me, they're a lock in A. And I'm really not sure of where I want to put them next to the Thieves, though. So what do you guys think?
Well, first of all, Pat, I think that you need to reevaluate what you're saying, because you're telling me that they're going to be the world champions, and then you're telling me you're
at the end of the year. The
end
of the year, they'll be the world champions.
We're going off what we have seen on Vanguard so far. What we have seen with Toronto Ultra on Vanguard so far. At LAN, they played LAT and they won. At LAN, they played Seattle, who's my favorite.
It was a close series, though, by the way.
But they won, though.
No, I know.
So if they won and they got first, I don't care what they're doing in these online matches. To me, they are the best team.
That was over a month ago.
Yeah, the Kickoff Classic was like I feel like people didn't have as much practice. And I don't know about y'all. Whenever I would go to LAN, I would like would like learn a lot, like as teams, like as a team that like would lose, and I would like take it back and like bring it back to online matches. And I don't know. I don't really. I'm not gonna put too much into the online to LAN. I think A is fine.
Why is James trying to slide them up to S? He had Toronto Ultra. Did you see that? Like I wasn't about to catch that.
I think Ultra. I think Ultra is a good at A. They just lost to Thieves in like the last week. So I think you put them behind Thieves right now at the very moment.
1,000%.
They 3-0 Florida with the sub.
It doesn't matter. Like Ultra got 3-0'd by Texas, even with the whatever, that whole scandal and stuff like that. But I don't think we talked about in the last episode, it didn't make that much of a difference in my opinion for them to get 3-0'd. They got 3-0'd. They got 3-1 by Thieves. I don't think you put them ahead of Thieves, and you definitely don't put them ahead of OpTic. So like I think A is a good spot for them. Regardless, I do think that their potential is higher than A. I think those guys proved last year that they have disgusting teamwork and they'll probably get better. But right now, I think A is a solid pick, and I don't think you can argue against it right now.
Yeah, they're definitely an A tier. I mean, I think something to note is, in my opinion, they probably had the hardest qualifiers, or definitely top 2, top 3, because they played Seattle, they played LAG, Florida, Texas, and LAT. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are
they won.
Yeah, and I mean the only
online, right?
Yeah. In the qualifiers, the only thing that worries me is they beat the teams that they were supposed to beat in LAG and Florida, and they did it easily. And like I know they have the potential to be S tier, but I think that there's also a good chance on our side of that where they just kind of stay in that A tier where they're really good, but they don't have enough in this game, like enough to beat the other top teams.
Are we putting them behind Thieves or in front of Thieves?
Hell no, they're not going in front of Thieves. Did you listen to what I just said, James?
Beat Thieves on land.
Hold on, yeah. So I think this is why we have to give them the edge. They beat them on LAN. Yeah, they did lose to them online, but they beat them on LAN. And I think if we're going off like how we perceive teams, I think it's way more important to be better on LAN than it is online.
But they've been getting smoked.
Hey, they just got body bagged by OpTic and LAT.
3-0'd and 3-1.
Wait. Think about it. In the LAT series, they smoked them on Bocage. 100-point clubbed, like laughed at them.
How many times have you won a first map, Pat, and then got bodied the next 3? Just saying.
No, but I'm just saying for like how good a team is. Like they smoked them. I think it was like one of the worst blowouts, barring like a Paris series, of any team right now in the league. And this is 2 of the top 4 teams. And then they beat them on LAN. It was a close series, but they did clutch up. They went game 5 and beat them. So for me, I have Ultra having the edge currently of what we've seen because I weight LAN more than online. And you guys have been in series, right? Yes, OpTic would have won that series no matter what, but I don't know if we necessarily saw the best Ultra that we would have seen if that F8 thing didn't happen, only because you guys know how that affects you. Like your comms get flustered.
Yeah, they were pissed.
You get pissed off. Like it changes how your team plays. So to me, that series has an asterisk, and I'm not really going to judge them. I think OpTic wins that series regardless, but I'm not judging them based on what I saw out of that.
Well, look, I have a rebuttal for that. You want to know? It comes down to this.
It's close though. It's close.
The reason why I don't think, and Doug and Chris, tell me if you agree with me or not, I don't think you can put Toronto above LAT, Pat, is because so far, if you're counting, well, I'm counting Major 1 qualifiers. That is what I'm looking at. The kickoff was the kickoff. Yeah, Toronto won it. They look good. They had some close series. They had some dominant wins, whatever. But Toronto doesn't have a dominant game mode right now, like they did last year. They're literally basically even across the board in the respawns, and then their S&Ds actually kind of looking mid. Whereas LAT, they have a dominant game mode, and it happens to be hardpoint, which is in this every series twice. Like, so that is something where you can feel comfortable with. Where Toronto, they're just they're not bad, but they don't look exceptional in any one mode. And I feel like you can't put them above a team that is dominant, and then they have the same records in the other modes as Toronto.
I have a really good rebuttal for you here, and Doug and Chris, I want you guys to chime in on this.
They won on LAN.
Hold on, no. Let's compare strength of schedule. The Thieves have not played a top 6 seeded team thus far. Their matches, except FaZe, their matches were like Paris, Boston, I think. I don't remember all the specific ones, but their 4-1
They play New York, right? I think they play
New
New York too.
Their 4-1 record is on the worst teams in the game. And keep in mind, I have Thieves to win this stage 1 major just because of how dominant their hardpoint is. But when we're judging them off map records, you got to keep in mind who they've played. And the fact that Thieves played so many lackluster teams and Toronto has played every good team in the game, I give the edge to Ultra when I look at the fact that Ultra did beat them on LAN, and keep in mind too,
they should have lost to them though. You know
Ultra,
that.
No, that game 4. We can talk about that all day. But
that.
Ultra having those even map records, they also just had a 1-6 record this weekend, right? Like they could have had a bad weekend. They went 3-0 by OpTic, 1-3 by the Thieves. Like that really gonna mess with your map records. But yeah, to me, I think from what we've seen, they're the stronger team because they've played better teams and still been able to perform just as well.
I think at this point we're literally going off. Yeah, but I think at this point we're literally just going off like what ifs. Like what if LA Thieves played a harder team? What if Ultra played weaker things? I think we're not.
They just really played each other.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think we're gonna really come to a solid conclusion on this. I think me and Ian are both on the side of Thieves, and I think both of you guys are on the side of Ultra. So I honestly think we just kind of like call it a tie, and we just I don't really know how we put down the tier list.
Okay, we'll call it a tie.
No, I agree.
But put Ultra in front of Thieves because Ultra beat them on LAN and Ultra won the major. So put them
okay, go ahead.
There we go.
Until this major happens, Ultra has to be in front of Thieves.
But whoever's editing this got to put an asterisk next to that because the LAT through that.
You're on payroll with LAT. You're biased. So, anyways, listen.
Wait, hold up, Doug. Hold on now. Let me clarify something. I have no affiliation with LAT. I am on payroll with 100 Thieves. I'm just an LAT stan. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the clarification, Ian. This one is going to be very interesting to me, and I want to know what you guys think. This is a very, very controversial one, and I'm going to make it very simple, and I don't want to make anybody feel offended because before the season began, I love the London team. I think the players are great. I like their teamwork, and I love what I've seen from them online, but I have to put them in the B tier right now. I can't put them in the A tier. I can't put them with those other teams in the A tier from what I saw from the LAN kickoff. I need like I said, I think they've been playing phenomenal. Joey Gizmo has one of the best KDs in the league. He's a flex, right? Like Trey's their main?
I believe so.
So your flex player should be the best.
A sub, right? And Afro's a flex? Am I?
I'll be honest,
players are always running like 3 autos anyway, so it's kind of weird.
They play a lot of the thing that's tough is they don't ever play Bocage or Bokaji. And
play a lot of Gavutu.
Yeah, it's like you're not gonna have I don't think I've seen him be the one sub on Gavutu or Berlin, but some teams do like 2-2 on that map, and I've seen 3-1. Yeah. I don't know.
But
Afro is their sub.
Regardless.
Afro and Nasty are the subs. And Afro, to me,
Doug
was a superstar last year. Afro's a superstar this year. I have no doubts in him. Trey, despite all the crap he gets, I have no doubts in him being a winning teammate, winning player on a championship team. For me, it's Nasty and Gizmo. They've really impressed me in these online matches. If they do anything remotely close to what they do in these online matches, I'll be ready to put them in the S tier. But I can't put them in that until I see it online. I have to put them in the B tier for now.
The B? What about... I'm gonna ask you the same thing I asked Pat about Boston. What if they were at the very end of the A tier? Because so the thing is while I think you're right, Doug, because we've seen for years now players who are really good online go to LAN and do the same, if not better, right? And then on the opposite side, we've seen players who are really good online go to LAN and they just don't perform well. And sometimes, majority of the time, actually, it probably doesn't have anything to do with like internet being an online joke. It's just a different atmosphere. Some people get some people get nervous. Some people can't, they don't do well under pressure. Some exceed expectations under pressure. I would know, I'm one of them. But when we're looking at like their matches so far, the Kickoff Classic, I know they got bodied by Seattle. They were hot. And it's tough because I can't go one way or the other on like, damn, maybe they were just nervous, like Gizmo, even Afro, like everyone besides Zero. Or maybe if it was like whatever, because I did hear that there were issues, behind the scenes, whatever. And if you look at their game modes, dude, they're really good at every single mode. They're one of the best control teams in the league. They're one of the top teams in hardpoint. and their S&D, I feel like they can compete with anyone. Like they could take an S&D off of anyone in the league. So I feel like this team is very similar to an Atlanta FaZe with just maybe not as much talent, where they're just well-rounded from top to bottom, at least so far in Vanguard. So I think that they should be A tier, but I do agree with you, Doug. I think they should be in the back of the A bus. I don't know what Pat and Doug or Pat and Chris think.
I think the way you're going to look at this team is you're going to compare them a lot to, so Thieves and Ultra have like their fight at the top of the A tier, and I think you're going to have Ravens and like Seattle kind of fighting for their spot in the like back of the A tier. I think you're having like a very similar argument here. It's like one team had a lot of success early on, and one team had a lot more success later in like
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
The group stages and stuff like that. And they did, and then once again they did end up playing each other like they did on LAN, right? They got smoked on LAN, but then or Ravens got smoked on LAN, but then Ravens smoked them online. Like you're having like a very similar composition here with like how Thieves and Ultra played each other on LAN and online, and like they both have very similar records. So I don't know.
So I disagree. I personally think that there's no world where Seattle Surge is better than the Ravens. I think the Ravens are by far and away the better team in comparison to Surge. Ian, to your point, I don't think you can go wrong if you have them at the top of the B or the back of the A. I think either one is right, depending on who you ask. For me, I will give them the edge, and I will say they're in the back of the A. And the reason is because I think they're just better than Seattle. Currently, where the game is right now, they're a better team. When you look at Seattle's map record and their series record, they easily could be a 1-4 team currently. That 2 Game 5 round 11s, if Lamar doesn't clutch up, they're a 1-4 team. And that's a big deal.
I agree. Yeah, no, you're right with that. You're 100% correct.
So for me, when I think about it, if I assume that they're better than Seattle, and I think they're better than Guerrillas as well, I think it's justified in putting it in the back of the A because I have Seattle in the B. I can't justify throwing Seattle anywhere near the Ravens or the Ultra or the Thieves from what we've seen in the last few matches, and the fact that they'd be 1-4 if Lamar didn't clutch up for them.
And that's what I'm saying, Pat, is like I agreed with you. I was like, I think they're fighting for the last, like the back of the spot, like Seattle and Ravens. Like that's like the two that were like, I feel like we're in the conversation for the back of the A tier, and I think you're hitting it right. Like you're hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah. No, I think definitely back of the A tier. And I think the biggest difference from Seattle and, well, James, you could put London there. I know your fingers gotta be hurting. And our next team in OpTic is, because we've only seen the two, like they lost their last week. They went 0-2 and they got bodied. And it happened to OpTic. Like it could be a small slump, but the biggest difference is OpTic lost 2 round 11s where they could easily
Seattle.
Yeah, where they could easily be 5-0 undefeated right here. So that to me, it screams, they were just, in a little slump. They choked, close game, whatever, it happens. But Seattle, like you said, Pat, if Lamar didn't clutch up and he wasn't Iceman, they're 1-4. And I just think that they're too reliant on Pred and Sib. But speaking about OpTic, they're clearly in the A tier. Clearly. Without a doubt.
We put them at the top, or they
underneath?
I can't put them in front of Toronto.
No, I can't. I honestly think we put them right behind LAT, but ahead of London.
Schedule.
Because they're really good at all 3 game modes, right? Which is obviously, that's great. It's ideal, but they aren't as dominant in any specific one. Like, they have a winning percentage in all 3 modes in the Major 1 qualifiers, but like, I think they're more likely to win a hard point to say a team in the B tier or the C tier than a team like LAT or London. I truly do. So I just don't think you can put them ahead of LAT. It's close, dude. I think all 4 of those teams are so close together.
Yeah, people are going to look at this list really weird because if you're looking at map records, like there's going to be a lot of clarification that's going to be like needed because Seattle beat Ultra, right? But you're putting them really low. OpTic also technically beat Ultra, but you're putting Ultra still ahead of OpTic. Like, there's a lot of like wonkiness if you were to look at the standings and our reasoning here, but I think you're spot on here.
I think it's logical. I don't know, but
yeah, because I don't think we should be putting so much weight into just being like this team beat this team. They're clearly better. I don't think that should be
it's as a whole. It's as a whole
indication. Yeah,
well, listen,
I think putting them there is a good spot.
Before we put them in, I'm gonna say my piece because I think you all will disagree with me. I think OpTic's an S tier team. I think when you look at their series, Ian, they should be 5-0. Like they had two. No. They had 2 Game 5 round 11s. There's a lot of discrepancy from what went into that, and then from the last 3 series we saw them play, they looked dominant. It wouldn't surprise me if they came out and won their major. I wouldn't think twice about it at all. I'd be like, okay, that.
Yeah, no, I think they're a favorite. I think they're a favorite to win.
When you go off their scrims, I think they are dominant. I think they had like the craziest scrim record in the beginning of the game. They had that little weak point with the first 2 matches they played. I think this team is going to continue to get better as time goes on. I think they struggled figuring out who's really going to IGL and kind of take over in those game-to-game moments where you need someone to kind of be that voice of reason, that direction. To me, they're an S tier team. I think they're going to be competing all year long for championships. And on a consistent basis, I think they'll be better overall, better average placings than the teams in A. So for me, I think they're an S tier team. And I know you guys aren't really going to agree with it if we go off what we've seen out of them, but from the talent they got on the team and what we've seen out of their last 3 games, and knowing that this could easily be a 5-0 team if they didn't lose 2 round 11s, for me, they're S tier.
I think we can put them at the top of A tier or like right behind Ultra if we're gonna like even have like some sort of a compromise.
Wait, Doug,
here.
do you agree with that?
No, I disagree with that heavily. I think Ultra beats OpTic 9 times out of 10 on LAN. I can't put them in front of Ultra. I just can't. Like, I just think the team composition, the way that I think Scump, disgusting. Shotzzy, disgusting. Dashy, best shot in Call of Duty history. Ender, one of the most hardest working, smartest players, very clutch player. They have a great team and a lot of talent. But Ultra and that team and that system wins against OpTic 9 out of 10 times. Despite the fact that OpTic 3-0'd them, despite the F8 stabilizer didn't matter, OpTic was going to beat them regardless. But look, I like to base things based upon LAN. And if I see OpTic Gaming beating Ultra on LAN, I'll be riding that coattail in S tier as well. But Ultra to me on LAN has consistently shown me that they rise up to the occasion. I can't see Ultra losing to OpTic right now.
I agree. Well, kinda. I could see Toronto losing to OpTic.
Yeah.
But I agree with Doug. What Doug is saying, and also you, Pat. I think the biggest thing for me, from what we've seen, what I've seen personally, like I haven't seen their scrims, right? I've only seen the kickoff and the qualifier matches. I think you're right. I think they have probably the second most talent on any team in the league. I think that they will be very consistent, and they'll be amongst the top. Like they'll always be in contention to winning, I would say, unless something crazy would happen. But to be a great team, you got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat consistently. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there was 2 round 11s, and it happens. It's happened to all of us in here. It's happened to a shit ton of teams. It doesn't matter. But the fact that they lost to those 2 teams, from what I've seen right now, that they should have beat, it should even have went to a Game 5 round 11. You know what I mean? Against Minnesota.
Against Minnesota, yeah, that should not have lost.
And I mean, even London, to your point. But when you look at teams like Toronto, LA, London, they beat all the teams that they're supposed to beat. The teams that, they might be worse, but they beat them. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. So I don't know. I just feel like I would be less surprised if OpTic lost to one of these lower tier teams that we have on the board right now, and the teams that we're going to continue to fill in, than these other 3. So I can't put them above A tier if I think that they're more likely to lose those matchups.
If we put them in A tier, and I ask you who has the highest ceiling in A tier, who are you going to say?
Ultra.
Ultra.
The highest
The highest ceiling, not
highest ceiling.
Yeah.
Ultra, they almost won.
I would say, I would probably say Toronto, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's still early. It's still early on.
I would say OpTic has a higher ceiling than Ultra.
I just feel
a higher
like
floor.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I think no matter what, you can put them at the front of A tier if you want. If you guys all agree with that, above Toronto, but I don't think you can put them in the S tier. I think we all know what team is in the S tier.
It's the team that is about to get picked right here. The next one on the list.
That's where we drop an OpTic.
I think we put them in between Ultra and Thieves, in my opinion. I don't think you can put them above Ultra just simply because of they won the kickoff classic and they still haven't looked terrible while having a very tough schedule.
Let me ask you a question.
COVID as well.
If we come back,
if
we come back from next week and OpTic wins the event, where are we putting them?
S tier. 100%.
Can I get dumbest questions for 300, please?
But where at in the S tier?
I mean, it depends. It depends on. You got to give me context.
If they beat FaZe,
Is it OpTic FaZe like game 9, like round 11, or is it OpTic FaZe and they body them?
Game 9, round 11. Who cares?
If it's round 11, I'd put them number 2. But if they body them, I'd put them number 1.
Yep.
Like if it's convincing, I would put them number 1. If it's not, I would still have them at number 2.
I've never been a person to go 0 to 100, bro. Like you work your way up. Even if you like win one, it doesn't mean you're necessarily the best. It could have just been like, like an upset type thing, especially if it's
Minnesota ROKKR.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You got to prove it multiple times. You don't just become the best after one tournament. You don't just become the best after one tournament. You see what I'm saying?
I agree, Chris. Go ahead,
Doug. How it's always been.
Where's
the
your
New
team
York Subliners?
Hey, don't move that finger, James.
You got to put them off the damn into a different monitor. Like,
can I make an F tier?
Doug, where do you honestly think they're at? No trolling, no nothing.
Dude, what a disappointment. I mean, what a disappointment. They're the most disappointing team in the history of Call of Duty. In the history of the game, I've never been more disappointed in a roster.
That's a bold statement.
Well,
he might not be wrong.
Look at this roster, man. You have the GOAT.
Envy World War II, though. It's got to be up there.
Rise BO3.
Yeah, but like those players didn't accomplish half of what these players on.
That's true. No, that's true. No, you're right. You're right.
Only half of the players that accomplished it on this New York team.
But Paco has been consistent since last year. He's been consistently one of the best
accomplishments, though.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at this team top to bottom. I'm looking at this roster, regardless of it being Neptune or Royalty. You got Crim and Clay. You got Paco, and these guys are like the dead last team. Like they're fighting with Paris on like who's the worst team in the league right now. It's blasphemy. I can't believe how much of a disappointment they've been. Now, they did look good at the kickoff LAN. That's the only reason why I have faith in them going into this next tournament. I did say I'm picking them to win. Obviously, we all know that it was a little bit more of an exaggeration, but I have to put them in
just
D.
a little bit.
I have to. Even though they look decent on the LAN, just knowing these players and knowing their expectations and knowing how bad it's been, it's like you got Royalty coming in. He's still not putting up the best stats, but I know Matt's potential as a player, and I feel like he fits these players really well. Like Clay and Crim need a player like Royalty on their team that's going to do more selfless stuff, that's going to be a little bit more aggressive, opening up the map for these guys. Clay and Crim got to step their game up, man. I mean, they could go from a D tier to an S tier if Crim and Clay start playing good. Like, that's how impactful those players are because they're some of the greatest of all time.
Boy, you faded.
If they play to their prime peak potential, give me Clay, who's won 2 of the last 3 world championships. Give me Crim, who's won 3 as well, most event wins of all time. If they play
environments,
if they're playing like they did back then, sure. But I think like even if I feel like
this, how they play, Chris, who cares? How they play is irrelevant. Look at the team differential. Both of those players, when you're talking about this conversation, Doug, were on by far and away the best teams in the game. Like, you could make an argument Empire was maybe the second best team in the game, but Clay, BO4, best team in the game. Crim, a lot of 2017 best team in the game. The Empire team, top 2. Clay was on that team as well. Like, even if you're going off past year performances, they were on the best teams in the game with the best players in the game. This is the first year where they weren't in that element where they had the superior firepower on their team with them. Yes, Hydra's amazing, But when you compare him to someone like Shotzzy or Simp, aBeZy, like these are players who consistently perform and consistently win. They don't have that this year, especially when they're going through a motion of royalty, Neptune, not knowing who their fourth is, not liking their fourth. To me, it's not disappointing.
To be dead last, Pat, that is disappointing.
Wait, it's disappointing to be dead last. It's not disappointing to not be a top team.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I
mean they're D tier, bro. We all agree.
Yeah.
Any team that hasn't won a map in a mode is a D tier team by definition. It doesn't matter.
Facts.
I think even if they were to all step up and start playing better, I don't see them going higher than like B.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if they're playing near prime, like they just don't have the opportunity.
Hey, it's NYSL's duo, Paris Legion, also in the D tier. What do you talk about?
Doug, to your point, I will say, I will give you credit. New York is better than Paris.
Yeah.
So they're not the worst team in the game.
Well, I expect Paris to be a lot better now with Tom Gravity being their main AR. I'll be the one to say it.
Is that confirmed yet?
Did that get confirmed?
I mean, he said the contract's officially tweeted
Yeah,
out.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Wait, but they don't know about the fourth yet, right? Because the rumor was that it's not going to be Jimbo. It's going to be Fellow shifting down to a flex role, and keeping John and Temp. So it would be Tom Gravity for Desi and then a role switch.
I'm hearing that Jimbo still might go there. It's just, he's French, really? Canadian. Like, he might not be able to make it over there in time. Like,
Jimbo needs to be in the league, man. That kid is different. Jimbo would help.
You did say that, but they're D tier. They're the worst team in the league. As simple as that. I don't even want to waste my time talking about them. Seattle Surge. I don't know what you guys think. I personally think they are in the B tier. Mm-hmm. On top, and they're ahead of LAG. I think they are like the first team in the B tier. And my reasoning for it is it's just tough because I don't know if they kind of just went through a slump or if they're one of those teams that they start out hot in the beginning of the titles each year and they slowly regress. Like they were so ahead of the curve. I don't want to say that that's the type of team they are right now. I think this major is going to show us everything. Especially because they have loads of talent on that team. I really love this Sib and Pred duo. But at the same time, I feel like they're so reliant on them to perform. Even when you look at their series. And I know Lamar clutched up in those two series that they won. But if Sib and Pred weren't doing as well as they were, they probably don't even get to those game fives. So I don't know. I'm like on the fence. They could easily be an A tier / S tier team without a doubt. I think this 4, but they could also be like a C tier.
What you said right there.
You think I'm off the pack?
Yeah,
you don't think they could be an A tier team no matter what?
No, I don't see a world they could ever be an S tier team ever.
What if they win? What if they win?
No, I don't see them winning.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to be that good. And to your point, I don't know. I think it's kind of a discredit to LAG being the third best team in hardpoint in this game currently.
You're not putting LAG over Seattle pack. I had to cut you off.
I think Seattle currently is a middle of the pack B tier team. I think we're giving them way too much credit. They're literally so lucky Lamar clutched up 2 round 11s for them because right now they would be a 1-4 team. Like, we would literally be looking at them 1-4, not impressed at all. They would have gone from second to kickoff to 1-4 of the league if Lamar didn't bless them. Because, by the way, it's not like they won game 5 round 11s. Lamar turned situations they should have lost into situations they won. 2 situations. So, things that shouldn't have happened. And to me, LAG is the third best hardpoint team in the game. They look solid. They have room to improve, but statistically, they don't rely on anybody. I wouldn't say. I think they're all playing well. Gunless and Asim are playing well, but they don't rely on those performances to get wins. Whereas for Seattle, if Sib and Pred don't go even at least positive, they don't have a chance in series. And I think that's what you saw over the last week, where Sib and Pred are dropping like 0.7s, like legit 0.7s, and they're supposed to be like the superpowers or the superstars for their team. To me, I think it was a one-off at the kickoff, and then we kind of throughout this stage 1 we saw their real potential, and to me it's middle of the pack B tier team.
I gotta stop you right there, Pat. Look, I stood by Seattle before they even beat anyone at the kickoff, and I'm still standing by Seattle. Look, Dante, to me, Sib, I expect him to finish this year with the highest KD in the league. It might be tough with people like Gizmo and Cellium, especially in these online matches. But Dante, to me, I saw him in Challengers and MW. I'm like, this kid's different. I'm watching him I DM'd him before he played FaZe. I was like, hey, man, big-time players show up in big-time moments. And he just DM'd me back. He said, exactly. And then when he beat FaZe, he just hit me with a period. And it's like, yeah, this is what I expect out of you, Dante. Him dropping these 0.7s, that is not, to me, like, if Sib drops a 0.7, I don't even care. I think he is just too talented of a player.
Them, though.
Yeah, but I also think that he was tweeting something about his aim assist having issues, and maybe
I was gonna say that. Like, that is the thing, bro.
I'm on his side, man. Like, I think this kid is better than everybody in the league. I think he has more talent than anybody in the league. And if you have that player on your team and he's your flex player, if your flex player is one of the most talented players with the Celliums, with the Camis, with the Gizmos, right, based off these online matches, then your team could go far. You got Lamar, who is the guy who's saving your team in the series. If he's going to be icing up, which he's always been doing, you got the most talented, if not one of the best flexes in the game, and you got Mac and Pred. I think they easily could be an S tier team. I think you got to put them in the A tier right now, even with their series record online. To me, this online stuff is always going to be fugazi. I don't care. Like, we'll see if these online matches and these seedings make these teams place the exact same in these tournaments based on how they're seeded. I'll eat my words. But for me, I think Seattle's at minimum an A tier, and I definitely put them in front of Thieves and London and OpTic. I'd put them right behind Ultra. Yeah, I'd put them behind Ultra.
I'm not doing that. I'm putting them at the top of the B with like maybe being behind Guerrillas, maybe. And the only reason is, like I said, like I still put some weight into LAN, although they did like clutch up on a lot of series, they still did enough to get to those game fives. They still like played well throughout the series. They might have barely edged it out, but like they still had good maps during the series. It wasn't like it all came down to one play, but at the same time, they still played well throughout the majority of the series, right? So like, I don't know. I don't think you can take that much credit away from them, but I do see what you're saying, Pat. And I do think depending on how they do at this major, you're going to see them regress or, elevate. It just really depends on how they do at this major, but I think B is fine, and you can argue either way whether you put them ahead or behind Guerrillas, in my opinion.
It is crazy too. Sorry, just what Doug said, and I know this is gonna. I mean, I didn't say it, but like I know it is, or it looks like an excuse. But I saw Sib tweet about that, the auto aim thing. Like he hasn't felt comfortable like the last 2 weeks, even in scrims, and some other players even said that. Like I think Gunless said, a couple of other people, doesn't matter. But like, Pat, you got to think in their first 3 qualifier matches, right, against solid teams, he had a 1.32. And in the last 2 series, so that's not like just like a one-off series, you know what I mean? That's 3 series and the average 1.32. And then the last 2, 0.7, 0.6 differential. You're telling me that like,
listen, I'll tell you for sure.
Like maybe his controller dead ass was fried.
Listen,
that's not a 0.7
because he's an MVP level player. I'll be honest. Like he has the potential to be an MVP.
Let me rephrase. I don't think he's a 0.7 player, but I also don't think he's a 1.4 every single series player either. And to that point, they were barely edging out wins when he was a 1.4 series player. If he's dropping 1.4s, which he did in the 2 series they won Game 5 Round 11, and it relied on Lamar clutching up in a 1v2 scenario in those Game 5 Round 11s, then they rely way too heavily on him to consistently play at that level to win series. And I don't think he's a 0.7. Those could definitely be one-offs, but I don't see him being outside of like a 1.0 to like a 1.15, give or take who he's playing. And then to the aim assist thing, like, yeah, that's a big jump from 1.4 to 0.7 or whatever. But let's be logical. That aim assist bug has been a thing since December 20th, according to Sledgehammer. And it's not like Dante's account is the account that's losing aim assist. It's a player-to-player engagement collision issue. So yeah, I don't know. And that kind of adds to it, right? Because then you start questioning his mental, right? You saw Tommy tweet like it's all mental. Like it might not have been the case for the scenario, but he is a rookie player, and if things like that are going to get to him to that extent where like he may be losing aim assist in some gunfights and starting to doubt like what the fuck's going on, that's another factor to consider. I just think as far as his Surge team goes, they rely way too heavily on him carrying the weight through these series, and if he doesn't, I can't see them winning any series against the Ultra, OpTic, Thieves, or London.
I think you put them under Guerrillas.
Under
the Guerrillas, yeah.
Damn.
They're
I
just,
mean,
they're,
I mean,
they've been
if
too
you
wildly inconsistent lately. Like,
if that's what you and Pat have, because I don't think, like, I don't agree with Doug. I don't know if they should be A tier where he had them. But
I just think they've been too wildly inconsistent, like Pat said, and like they barely scratched out some wins. And
when
like,
Dante was MVP,
when
no, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Exactly. It's like, I think Guerrillas has been more consistent, although they haven't been like anything crazy. Guerrillas has still just been consistently getting better this entire time.
And they're winning all their hard points, right? Like if you look at a team and you're like, damn, they're winning majority of their hard points. They're just losing series and S&Ds and controls, and that's an easy improvement. But yeah, I don't think the Seattle has an easy improvement. Like it's like, Dante, please drop a 1.5. Like that's the improvement.
I mean, look, last thing I will say though, LAG does have that in the hard point. But even if you count the Kickoff Classic, Seattle Surge is one of the best S&D teams in the game. And there's also two SNDs in every series. Yeah. So it's like they're both really good at one mode. I just think Seattle Surge as a whole is more well-rounded. But, you know, I'll let it slide.
My last argument is just like when you look at statistical performances, LAG have all been playing pretty well to be where they're at. Like stat-wise, they've all been pretty consistent in their performances. But Seattle was Dante massively overperforming, barely winning, to Dante massively underperforming and getting smoked. I think that's kind of where you look at those teams and you say, well, I think LAG has the upper hand because they're losing their series by a closer margin when they're still playing okay. Whereas Seattle, if they rely so heavily on someone dominating to even be close.
Well said. Well said.
All right. If that's what y'all think. Minnesota ROKKR. Phew.
I think at the end of the B tier is fine.
Yeah.
Dude, a lot of people said that.
I still like this team a lot.
I do too, but they're just but it's just like they're not that impressive. Their S&D keeps them relevant, but like I think people are kind of just catching on to like the way this team likes to play, and like besides S&D, it's like
I think they have to be C tier, bro.
C?
No. So hear me out.
That is disrespect.
Well,
bro.
wait, let me explain my reason. I think they are the top or the front of the line in the C tier, but
there's a big gap between Boston and ROKKR.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I would probably even maybe I would probably make like a B- tier and only have Minnesota in it. But bro,
I could get down with that because then we'd be throwing New York and Paris in the F tier.
But like, I just from their series, Minnesota, we all noticed they've always been like heavily reliant on their S&D. Okay, the only mode that they're good at right now. They're one of the worst control teams. Their hardpoint is mid. And the biggest thing for me is I think this is a team, once again, that has a higher floor, but their ceiling is just like so much lower than LAG, Seattle, definitely all the teams in the A tier, because they don't have like a convincing win.
Bro, I gotta stop.
They have two wins. They have 2 wins, and it's both Game 5 S&D, bro. Good teams. I would say LAG and Seattle Surge are good teams. Good teams in series 3-0, 3-1. Like sometimes it comes down to a 3-2, but bro, you can't win every series Game 5. It just can't happen.
Game 5 round 11 too.
And and once again, I know it was against an OpTic Texas team who is very good, but they should have lost that match. What'd you say?
It should have been 3-1. They came back on that Berlin hardpoint.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah, sorry.
Here's the thing.
So it's like, bro, they're 1-4, and the only mode I think they're even competitive in is S&D. I just don't know how you have them.
They're not 1-4. They're 2-3.
No, I'm saying they should be.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. We go back and look at Ultra, right? Ultra has the same record, and they both have arguably had just as difficult schedules. If you look at Minnesota's schedule,
Ultra's competitive in those series.
Yeah, so is ROKKR. They went last map on a lot of them. Like, I'm not saying, regardless if they got stomped.
I know I'm talking what ifs. I know, but they should have lost 3-1 to OpTic. They lost 3-1 to London, 3-0 to ATL, and they lost to Seattle 3-2, which we just talked about Seattle.
But they didn't.
I know, but Bro, they don't have a convincing win.
I don't think you put them in C,
Listen,
bro.
hold on, Ian. The only reason
they're at the very back of B. Literally, the very
I
back.
agree with that. But
They are at the back of
only
B.
reason I'm going to say this is, Ian, I think you have a fair argument. The problem is if we're going to say they barely should have beat or they should have lost to OpTic. Well, to be fair, they should have beat Seattle, right? Like if Lamar didn't clutch up, they should have beat Seattle. So I think that's kind of where we look at it. Where if we're going to say one thing, we got to give them the credit on the other end. But yeah, I mean, I think depending on how this tournament goes, I think you could easily make a case they're at the top of C. But for right now, I think back of B is justified, given that they have had a tough schedule and some of the series were close.
So at the end of the day, they did beat Guerrillas. Granted, it was close. Guerrillas is the top of B. Okay, they beat OpTic. They went. Wait, who else did they beat? Let me look.
They lost map 5 to Seattle.
Yeah, they lost map 5 to Seattle, which they should have won. So like once again, like
FaZe.
Yeah, they got it's FaZe, bro. Like it's a little. Sometimes losing to FaZe, I don't even like count it sometimes in some of these like these tiers because it's just like it's fucking expected. But like I don't think there's that much of a gap between ROKKR and Seattle, but there is a huge gap between Breach and ROKKR and Florida. You are fucking hated, brother.
I might be biased. What? I might be biased because S&D was never my strong suit, but I just can't. Well, first off, in jetpacks it was. Go ahead and run the stat check in jetpack. S&D's always different. Okay. But anyways, I just can't get behind a team that is so reliant on S&D only. I hate that way.
Bro, it's so hard to, but like last year I was the same. It's like, God, they're so good at S&D. They suck at everything else. And like you still saw them placing consistently. Like they're a really unique team because although like S&D is S&D, and I feel like it's a really like fluky game mode sometimes, they find a way to make it work and be really consistent because it's been carrying the hell out of them for the last like year now of like competition where they've still looked good and competitive while literally only being consistent in that game mode. And the trend continues and all their series look damn scrappy, but it's been working out for them. And I don't think they've never dipped into like, if we're looking at the standings, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Like they've never dipped under like a top 6, top 8 in like the last year. Like, and you're going to put them in the bottom 4 to 5. Like,
hold on.
By the tier list,
they're the 8th best team in the league. That's
hold on. We agreed that we got to go off Vanguard and what we've seen from kickoff classic to now.
Okay, I'm still not. Regardless,
then where they are right now,
low, bro. That's
where they are right now.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't put.
Hey, look at Doug being the voice of reason. Yo, Doug, I thought you fell asleep on the mic.
No, I'm just listening and just trying to give input when I should.
I think, Doug.
I think C tier.
To be honest, right here, this list that we have, obviously we all know where this last one is going to go. I think if you wanted to rank teams 1 through 12, this is exactly how they should be ranked right now.
Yeah, I think we did pretty well.
I think this is a good list, man.
I mean, I'm going to disagree with one thing. Just one Seattle. The Seattle spot and the London spot to me, like that's the one I'll disagree on. But other than that, like I'm okay with this list. I'll be okay with this list. This is good.
Who did? And then obviously we didn't really talk much on it, but FaZe, there's not much to say. Best team in the game, 5-0 start. Half their series are blowouts. They're just dominant. I think they're going to be one of the teams
even playing that good in the beginning.
Yeah, this is just going to be one of the teams that's favored all year. Kind of how it's been the past few years, and without a game development kind of switch from the design side on how games are played, this is a team that's probably going to be a top 2 team in every game until there is a swap. So
yeah,
shout out to Big OpTic Hex for sending Arcitys to the Atlanta FaZe for free and making a absolute god squad. So yeah.
And as far as predictions, if at any point in the show, I will never predict that FaZe is going to win the tournament because at this moment in time, it's kind of expected. So I'm always going to predict someone else. And I think a lot of us are kind of in the same boat. That's why we were, I think last week we all predicted Thieves to win because, it's going to get boring being like, FaZe is going to win. FaZe is going to win. FaZe is going to win. So
imagine being so good, Chris, where that's like what people are saying about them.
Hey, it happens.
It happens. There's esports where that's happened
Oh, y'all
multiple
played
times, man.
BO2, right? And Ghost, or was I the only one playing those years? Because
you was playing
too, if you know.
You were playing Lyft drivers, Uber
Wait,
drivers.
he was playing against me.
Yeah, I know, Chris. How you gonna let him talk to you like that?
That's disrespectful.
Well, oh no, Black Ops 2, Chris won the chip, baby. You was nowhere to be found.
Yeah,
Four?
because we didn't form our team until after, but yeah. But yeah, no, I think this tier list is good. I think interested to see how everyone kind of perceives it and what the comments are about it.
Yo, what if we predicted, like, what if the placings literally end like this?
I know what you're gonna say. It's impossible though because of matchups.
Oh yeah, you're right. Damn, everyone should start.
We're gonna come back to this tier list at the beginning of the year because this is preseason. Like, obviously, the season did start in terms of like the qualifiers and stuff like that. But this is right before the first major, so we're gonna come back to this tier list at the end of the year once all these teams have made roster changes, have settled in, and seen their their positions. And we're gonna see how this developed. But it's gonna be an interesting one for sure.
One of these teams needs Doug too. I'm gonna put that out there.
Look,
just
man, if I'm not doing much in challengers, I can't expect to be doing much in the league, man. You know?
Hey, Capsule wasn't doing much in challengers either.
NYSL still got your number though. That's all that matters.
Yeah, they do.
Because they're looking at a likely 12th after this event. They play the loser of Ultra or Thieves, and then so you never know though. They might be calling you number.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of other sub players and challengers too. So
yeah, I'm done hyping Doug up, bro. I'm done hyping Doug up.
What do you want me to do, Ian? You want me to just? I mean, dude, if I'm winning these tournaments,
kidding. I know you can't say.
Right, Ian. Where's my contract at? Where's it at? But
like, that's what I'm saying.
It's coming, Doug. It's coming.
In due time, man. Just gotta keep working.
Go ahead, Pep.
But yeah, listen, guys, that is gonna do it for us. This is our tier list up until the end of February. We'll obviously keep an eye out for how this kind of evolves as the year goes on. But I think this is our 4th episode of Reverse Sweep. Catch us next Sunday after Major 1. Well, I guess it'll be Monday. But yeah, again, like, comment, subscribe, and get your questions down in the comments. We this is something that's important to us. We want to get 3-4 questions every episode. We'll pick the best ones. And yeah, that's it for us, and we'll see you next week.